Now, the claim for compensation for the 2012 Marikana massacre continues today in the High Court in Johannesburg. Miners want President Cyril Ramaphosa and Sibanye-Stillwater to cough up R1 billion. President Ramaphosa was a shareholder and a non-executive board member of Lonmin at the time of the massacre. 34 miners were shot dead by police. Senior reporter Aviwe Mtila is covering the court case for us and brings us the very latest. Aviwe, good morning to you. Please bring us some context to this case and how much exactly are miners looking to receive from the president as well as Sibanye-Stillwater.
Morning, Tumelo, and it's R1 billion price tag to this lawsuit towards the president as well as Lonmin, which is now Sibanye-Stillwater, and government in its entirety. Of course, that is following that Marikana massacre happening back in 2012. But the miners are saying that more than anything, they want an apology from the president. You remember that on the 16th of August will mark exactly 10 years since at least 34 mine workers were mowed down brutally by the South African Police Service, and the miners themselves, more than 300 that are being represented here, are blaming the president. Remember that follows that email that took place on the 15th of August back in 2012 that talked of concomitant action that needed to happen. In fact, it's one of the issues that was raised here by Advocate Dalimpo for representing the miners, saying that President Cyril Ramaphosa, in his personal capacity, well, you do remember at the time he was the director of Lonmin as well as a shareholder, he says that those emails recharacterize what was happening on the ground, which was the industrial action of the mine workers, changed it. President, the director at the time, Cyril Ramaphosa, changing the terming of it, making it a criminal action that needed concomitant action. In fact, they're saying that he actively incited violence as well as exerted pressure, also used his political influence to the actions that we then saw the following day of the killing of those 34 mine workers. Hence, they now, almost 10 years later, at the High Court in Johannesburg, seeking some sort of compensation, also taking on the president in his personal capacity, as well as Lonmin, Sibanye-Stillwater now, and government in its entirety.
So with that being said, Aviwe, do we know at this point what the arguments are from President Cyril Ramaphosa and Sibanye-Stillwater's legal representatives?
Well, we heard some of these arguments just some 2 weeks ago when we were here. Remember, it was a virtual sitting there, and Advocate Budlender suggesting that the president can't be held on his personal capacity, given that at the time he was a non-executive director of Lonmin and also a shareholder. So it can't be, the lawsuit can't be directed to him in his personal capacity. Some of what we've heard, in fact, in the previous testimonies here. But of course, we heard also Advocate Dalimpo for coming and defending the miners here, saying that it was the president's emails more in his personal capacity in terms of talking to senior government officials. We remember at the time Gwede Mantashe was the NUM president. Some of those talks suggesting that he'd have conversations with the likes, and also Police Minister Natim Tweta at the time, and also the Commissioner at that time, Riapi of the police, suggesting that he used his political influence, exerted pressure to the brutal actions then that we saw the following day. Hence, they're saying that they want the president to be held in his personal capacity, but we've heard those counter-arguments suggesting that he was not in his personal capacity. In fact, he was just making directives that were better suited for the company itself, Lonmin, at the time. But of course, we're expecting that virtual sitting now to take place from 10 a.m. this morning, where we're expecting now the government to make its arguments, and we're expecting then the counter arguments from Advocate Dalimpo for representing the miners. Possibly a judgment from Judge Van Austin could be possibly heard also today, given that he has had some time, some 2 weeks, to go through the arguments that we heard and applied his mind to it. So possibly we'll be expecting the judgment as well today here. All right.
Aviwe Mtila, we'll be, of course, sure to come back to you as soon as there are other developments, as we expect, of course, those proceedings to take place this morning. Senior reporter Aviwe Mtila for us out in Johannesburg.